Hello everyone and welcome back. Where we're going to be going over the iPad. So like I said before, mixing for shows, guitar shows, plays, you can't do it up here. And the reason why is because this darn booth makes the acoustics terrible. And you're not going to be able to hear the show the same way it hears out there. You can do the finest, most precise, perfect, most beautiful sounding mixing from up here, and it will sound terrible for the people out there. Similarly, the perfect mixing for them is going to sound terrible for you up here, which is not what we want. So, we want to be able to mix from out there. What we used to do is literally unplug everything from the board, take up the entire board, and put it way down out in the house on a table and plug everything back in. We have a better option now. The iPad. So this lovely little thing can be turned on. And then if you go into the app X32 Mix. Hi, Emma. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. It shows you basically a copy of the entire board. So, first things first, if you want to set this up, make sure that your Wi-Fi is connected to this router right here. That is the purpose of this router, which is always plugged into the board. The password for this router is on the bottom. It is Modern Hippo 747, I believe. And this is it. Wi-Fi, this is the router. This router does not connect to internet. It only exists for the purpose of connecting this iPad to the board. Then, having the correct Wi-Fi isn't enough. You also have to have the correct IP address. So on this little thing here, if you go to setup on the board and go to network, it shows you the IP address of the board. Copy this into this little text box, and as long as that is correct and you're on the right Wi-Fi, when you hit connect, it'll connect. And now this is showing you a copy of the board. So much of a copy, in fact. Yeah. That's freaking awesome. Okay, so instead of having the buttons on the sides here, I shouldn't have done that. It is instead controlled up here with these little options that go back and forth between the channels. And these options also double as the meters tab because, actual meters tab, not auto mix, because it also shows you the meters up here. Lovely. Auto mix is always right there. Sends on faders is right there. Mute groups are right there. You can edit the mute groups from here by doing this, which basically does the exact same thing as going to the mute group tool belt. Show solos. If you're using solos, you can hit this, and then it will also show the solo button next to all the mics. So I can solo by pressing this. Lovely. We don't really use solos, so I'd rather have that off. Lock mutes is a button that makes you unable to mute on accident, which is really good for people live mixing out there, especially during plays, because usually the person up here controls mutes, but the person down there does the mixing, so the person down there should not have to worry about mutes at all. Lovely. Pan is right here. Pan is always right here. Now this person is fully panned to stage right. Actually, I believe that's stage left because it's from the mixer's perspective. If you double click on the pan, it brings it back to the middle. Lovely. The tabs up here are replaced with the tabs at the top here. And similarly, you have to select a channel. So right now it shows you the channel you've selected on the side, and you can, basically these little side arrow buttons at the bottom do the same thing as doing this, where it selects the next channel. You can also similarly just tap on the channel. So for example, if I want to select channel 5, I just tap on channel 5 and it automatically takes me to detail, and I can adjust the gain, delay, low cut, how it's being sent, the main bus, what mute groups it's in, what DCAs it's in, phase shift, phantom power, whether it's linked. Linking, by the way, is what causes this to happen, where the two channels mute and unmute and have the faders with each other. That's set if the two channels are linked. If you unlink them, they'll be separate again. Lovely. Okay. Gate is here, dynamics are here, EQ is here. It's all under detail, which is the same thing as home. Detail and home are the same thing. Send, except home here on the board just takes you to just looking at this. So that's detail. Sends. This is another way you can do sends on faders. Because, so while sends on faders is great on the board, sends on faders isn't that cool on the iPad. Because it's not that intuitive. Basically, you have to select the bus up here, and then it shows you how that channel is being sent to the bus you have selected from 1 to 16 up here. I very much prefer to, even though I only use sends on faders on the board, I only use bus sends on the iPad because, frankly, I find it way easier to click on it, go to sends, and then adjust what it's being sent to here. Because in bus sends, it's still on the faders, so it still makes sense. Bus sends on the iPad is way more similar to sends on faders on the board than actual sends on faders on the iPad is. It's weird like that. Naming, if you want to change that kind of stuff. And then this is the library. So there is no library tab up here because the library for channels, this stuff, is actually under home for each channel in the far right. This is library. Cool. Effects are here. You have your effects. Good stuff. Also, cool thing about effects, the iPad has some cool features that the big board doesn't. If you hit the effects button here in the top right, this is the effects library. If you click on that button, and it takes you to a big scrolling page of all of the effects, and you can see them all laid out in front of you. It's pretty cool. If you choose an effect with delay, or if you choose any effect with a time setting, then you can select the BPM like a drummer, so you can see this light flashing with the current BPM. If I do... it changes the BPM. And now that green light is tapping with my finger. If I do... it changes the green light to match my finger tapping. It's a really cool feature. Let me try to change it back to what it was. Yeah, sure. Okay. Lovely. Yeah, that's effects. Scenes is up here. The iPad cannot use snippets or cues. The iPad scenes can only do scenes. And in order to use this feature, you have to go back up to the actual board. You can't change this from the iPad. Go to Setup, Config, and then change the show view to scenes, and you'll be able to control scenes on the iPad. You are never able to control snippets or cues from the iPad, unfortunately. Meters. If you want to take a real good hard look at all those meters, even though all of this information is also right there, so I don't know why you would really use that. Recorder, for recording stuff. Routing is routing. Yeah. Patch points on the board is analog out here, where you choose the output and then you choose what it's connected to. It works the exact same way. Monitor is the monitor. Turn this on to oscillate. And then you can oscillate. And then setup is set up with a bunch of stuff. One thing I do like about the iPad is that it makes invert LEDs way more clear and just says invert mutes, which makes it a lot harder to run into that accident we had this a few weeks ago. Fun. And then, yeah, that is the iPad. If you ever use the iPad with Mr. Peak's PA, instead of our system, remember, change your Wi-Fi to match his, but also change the IP address to match his as well. And when you're done, change both of those back. Both of those need to work for the iPad to work. But other than that, yeah, the iPad is your friendly tool for sound checks, mixing, all that good stuff. Cool. All right, catch y'all on the flip side.